And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. This is the 226th time that we have brought this type of leadership, this type of mastermind to the Mortgage Coach community. Super proud of that. Do not have my wingman, Todd Bookspan, today, but replacing Todd Bookspan, we have Lori Richardson. What's up, Lori?
Hello, how are you?
Hello. So for
Glad to be
anybody,
here.
well, it's good to have you. For anyone that doesn't know who you are, if you could just really quick tell a little bit about who you are and what kind of production you do.
Well, first of all, I'm not Todd Bookspan, but we have almost the same haircut, so it works out perfectly. We closed almost $100 million last year, helped 272 families. I'm in Denver, Colorado with Cornerstone and have been in the business for 33 years this year.
And the most important thing of all, she is a mortgage coach grandmaster, and her and her team have done over 1,000 total cost analysis. And she's also, if there was a grandmaster of keeping current matters, she would use that. She's just one of the most professional education-based mortgage professionals in America. I mean, the best of the best learn from Lori. So Lori, thanks for making time to come in here. And as our grand guest today, we have Dave Childers with Keeping Current Matters. What's up, Dave?
Thanks, Dave. I'm excited to be on. And, you were talking about Lori, and I'm excited to be on with both you and Lori. I'll tell you an interesting thing about Lori. Occasionally she'll send me a message and say, hey, could you get this information? Could you do this? And it ends up being something that we run with at Keeping Current Matters and Bridge Builders. So Lori, you have an impact on that in us, trying to help simplify the market for loan officers and agents across the country. So I'm excited to be here today.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because Lori also makes Mortgage Coach better. There's times where she's like, hey, Dave, you should do this. And we're like, you know what? We should do that. Right. And I think Lori was one of the key catalysts to the team edition of Mortgage Coach, the way her and her team used Mortgage Coach prior to coming out with the team edition features. We had some gaps. We had some things that could be improved. So Lori, thanks for making Mortgage Coach the platform better.
Absolutely. Well, I'm grateful for both of you guys for helping us.
All right. Well, we got a love fest. You can tell we like each other. We've also got a lot of history together. So this session as a whole, the big takeaway is going to be how to be more valuable to agents and home buyers in this low inventory market. We titled this around what's really going on with home values. We're going to, David's going to share some slides. We're going to talk about some strategies to bring that leadership. Before we get into that conversation, do want to give folks an update on the Modern Real Estate Summit that we launched at Scriptapalooza. It will hit the website later today, no later than tomorrow, but we added Ryan Serhant, the $1 Million Agent out of New York. By the way, this book, Big Money Energy, is insane. It's really good. And we have crossed over 6,000 tickets sold as of yesterday, actually. So we're getting lots of branches, lots of regions, companies, just buying them in bulk to give them out to that are realtors. And Lori is one of those companies, one of those branches. And Lori, I just want to have a, 5-ish minute conversation on why did you say, hey, you know what? I want a lot of these tickets and I want to have this conversation with agents. Why did you do that? And then maybe give some tactics on how you're going to do that.
Sure. Well, first of all, the Modern Mortgage Summit was exceptional, and I'm still going back and implementing a lot of that content. And so I have no doubt that the Modern Real Estate Summit will be exactly the same. I feel like you and I were talking about this earlier this week, and I feel like there's a lot of apprehension in the marketplace right now, not only from our clients, what's happening with rates and prices and all of these things that we're going to talk about today, but I think from a real estate agent's perspective, it's hard to hit the ground running when they are not part of a community like you have built for us, both of you guys actually. And I think that the knowledge is power, and having the information and being able to see some other top producers from across the country and some of the things that they are doing will really, really help my agents that are some of the, they're some of the best in the business, be able to raise their game a little bit and also not feel so alone, right? The community piece, I think, has been really hard for a lot of us because we're so used to being around people all the time. I do a catalyst group for my agents. You ask how I'm going to use it. So actually, I brought Steve Harney to Denver, I don't even know how many years ago, lots. And I brought agents together in a room, some of whom I worked with and some of whom I didn't, but I really picked, top producers, people that were really great at what they do, and, thought leaders in their own right. And as a result of all of us coming together, we created a group called the Catalyst Group. And that was, again, some agents that I work with, some agents that I didn't, but we just come together every month and talk about, masterminding what's going on in the market. How can we get better? How can we use what we're finding? How can we share ideas? I've got some agents that are really great at, maybe not in this market, but open houses, and maybe another agent who's not, and they can learn from each other. And so I'm planning on taking the content from the Modern Real Estate Summit and basically bringing that back to that group and give that. I mean, literally, that'll probably give us at least 6 months worth of content to really work through and integrate and implement, and kind of give them confidence of knowing, you got this, we're going to get through this challenging time, and we're going to do it together.
I love that. We're going to get through this together. The theme of the event, and it was the same with the Modern Mortgage Summit, is this belief that I don't think tech companies and media companies are going to replace realtors or local loan officers. But I absolutely believe that the agents who master technology, who master media, who are educators, will absolutely replace those that don't. And so I just think that, like, hey, let's put the people that are mastering tech, media, education, let's put them on stage so that anyone who wants to be upgraded can be upgraded for the, the battle that's coming. So that's my why for being involved in it. And of course, my other why is that I want to change how people get into debt in America. I believe that Mortgage Coach and the total cost analysis, the transparency that we provide, the education we provide should be the standard for every family in America. And so I feel like we're part of that modernizing the industry. So real quick, before we bring on Dave on stage, because I have a feeling there's going to be some loan officers that, buy lots of these tickets to give away to realtors. There's going to be some companies that do it, they kill it. They have super effective conversations. And then I think there's going to be some people that buy it and they fumble. They're not as good. So what would it sound like if you were calling an agent or you were sending an email saying, hey, I bought a bunch of tickets in bulk for this amazing event. I want to give it to you. Like, just give me a 30 seconds, a minute on how that might sound.
Sure. I think the way that I'm approaching it, even just right now, right, with so much change and evolution going on in our industry with regards to, what's going on with interest rates and inflation and how's that going to impact things. My script to my agents is, hey, there's so much information out there, and I have brought together some information that we need to get ahead of. And let's get together and mastermind as a group to figure out how we can be as effective and efficient at disseminating the information, but also learning from other people who are great at what they do, and just up-leveling our game a little bit. And I always tell people, you can read anything you want. There's so much information out there, right? Our clients trust us to give counsel. And once they have seen how to do something, it makes it so much easier. And so coming together and seeing some of these top producers that just have some really, really great ideas that they've been able to implement, I think we're going to be able to take nuggets of that and be able to up-level our game as well. So my thought is we all come together in a conference room or on Zoom. I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of that, and learn together and then hold each other accountable. And that's really the biggest thing for me is let's come and learn, and then let's pick the things that we want to implement, and then hold each other accountable to actually getting them implemented. So that's
I love that. And I love that, hey, there's an event, and then there's, what are we going to do after the event? And remember, guys, this is for $99, it's the live event in 30 days of access to it. We haven't got Ryan Serhant on the screen yet, but he'll be up later today or tomorrow. We also are adding Dave Childers and Keeping Current Matters to this stage. So it's a great stage of professionals. What I have been hearing, I met with a lender who bought 1,000 tickets the other day, and they're like, one, we're gonna be broadcasting this on social media. We're gonna be giving it to agents. Now, guys, make sure you don't only give this to people that do business with you. You want to give this to prospects, anybody, because if you're just giving it to people that do business with you, that's not compliant, guys. So to compliantly buy an event like this, I don't care whether it's a $5 gift. You cannot give things to people for business. You need to make sure you're giving it to prospects and you're giving it to multiple folks. But I love that idea of, hey, let's also do a watch party for anybody that wants to come watch it together. And then let's use the content for months to come. So anyways, if you guys, you can buy the tickets at modernrealestatesummit.com. If you want to buy them in bulk, you can email me or Todd Bookspan, Dave@mortgagecoach.com or Todd@winbynoon.com. All right, guys. David, anything you want to say before we bring into the big topic at hand?
I think as we start this, I'll go back to what Lori said. Using information, using knowledge to educate clients today is what wins. And what you said, Dave, the knowledge-based loan officer will not be eliminated in this market, but absolutely the knowledge-based loan officer will trump the transactional or baseline individual in our market. And so I think that's what we're talking about today, is answering the question, have the knowledge and the facts to be able to do so effectively. And I'm excited to talk about home prices. So
yeah, well, guys, we're going to hopefully get some slides that you can share now. I recommend that you, one, become a member of Keeping Current Matters and you get the goods. It's not just slides. You're getting a narration every month of how to use the slides, and you're getting Dave Childers and their team's content around that. But yeah, guys, the other thing I love about these guys, they've got a free blog. You can check that out at Keeping Current Matters. We'll put a link down below. So Lori, for the next 50 minutes, we're 10 minutes into this. I'm going to be on this call co-hosting it, but I think because you actually are a customer and you use what they do, it's better if you're adding a lot of value to what Dave is sharing. So Dave, how do you want to frame it?
Yeah.
How do you want to start sharing?
It's a great question. Let's start this way. And Lori, I'll ask you a question. I'll give you a chance to think about this, but I'd love to hear from you, just the coaching that you have for loan officers on how they listen to this information as I get started. Okay, so I'm going to get started in a second now. I'll give you a chance to answer that in just a minute. But here's my goal for today. The topic here is home prices. What's really going on? We're seeing appreciation in the market. It's causing concern from people. Like, we need to be able to be okay with answering that question. I don't think it's an unfounded concern should someone come to us and say, you know what, I have some challenges. I have some fear that homes are appreciating too quickly right now. That's a very logical question from somebody who's not in our business, or maybe even you in our business, to understand that. So, Keeping Current Matters, we're driven by this, this purpose that we believe everyone that's buying and selling a home should do so confidently. And what we want to do is give them the data and the information to do it confidently. We've always said, let's give people the truth and trust their intelligence. And that's where we match up identically and parallel with Mortgage Coach. We want to give them the truth and trust their intelligence to make the best decision for themselves, for their family, whatever the case may be. And so with that as a backdrop, I'm gonna hop into pricing here for just a second. I'm gonna run through about 5 or 6 slides to give you not only the simple visual, but some of the words. Dave, I'm gonna turn these over. You can get them out to everybody after this. But Lori, with that as a backdrop and knowing what you do, how would you coach somebody to listen to this to be able to then go and leverage it, with the clients and the partners they're in business with?
Yeah, you bet. I would say turn on your listening ears in 3 ways. Number 1, listen to learn, right? Learn what's going on in the market every single time. It's my favorite email every month, almost, that comes that says, hey, it's ready, because it helps me to learn what's going on with the market. Then I would listen to understand what's going on in the market, but also the fears. You guys do a great job of saying, hey, here's what people are hearing. Here's what they're feeling. Here's why they're feeling that. And then the third set of that is listen to teach, right? If you can understand it well enough to go back and say, okay, now I've learned it. I understand what people are feeling out there. And now I can take and actually give it away and package it in a way that's understandable. And then you'll be able to break it down. Sometimes I teach the whole thing all at one time. More often than not, though, honestly, Dave, I break it down into little pieces, bite-sized pieces of, like, here's a concept and a slide. Here's a concept and a slide. So I think if you listen that way, and I'll be honest with you, I listen to it while I run. I used to tell Steve I run with him almost every morning. And he's like, great. But I listen to it. Will listen to it 3, 4, 5 times until I really have internalized it. And so that's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Hey,
No, and I
before
think that,
Dave,
Lori,
can I
go ahead,
jump
Dave.
in real quick? Because guys, what Lori just said was magic. In fact, I have a feeling we're going to create some micro content around how you started it, Dave, with a value prop. You started with kind of a value prop, and then Lori talked about learning. And everybody who's in Mortgage Coach, and if you're a new loan officer, especially, like if I could have learned that early in my career, where you're watching to learn, and then you're listening to learn, you're listening to understand, and then you're listening to teach it. Like when you get to the level, like to go from a brown belt at Mortgage Coach, that's where you're learning to do it yourself. But to be a black belt, part of being a black belt is mentoring other loan officers. It's teaching. So that literally what she just said applies to keeping current matters. It applies to learning Mortgage Coach. Guys, it applies to your CRM. Like when you can learn your CRM so well that you could teach other people, that's how you become a master in this mortgage business. So Lori, thank you for that. And it applies to so much everybody.
Yeah. I think that backdrop is really key. I would add to it this, Lori, you say it so well, you do it so well, you've got this system. My other encouragement to everybody listening would be just get started and do it. The only way that you're going to improve doing it is by doing it, is by getting out there and doing it. And you can hope that, you look back a year later and say, remember the first time we did that, and look at that and say, we do it much better today. And that's the only way that you're going to get better in this. So I'm going to share some slides. We're going to go through that. Then Lori will have a conversation after that. And Dave, I know you'll add in as well, but let's start this conversation about home price appreciation. I'm going to start right here. It's a unique time of the year here in March. We have the final home price appreciation numbers from 2020, and you can see here on the screen they're big numbers. FHFA saying 10.8% appreciation, CoreLogic 9.2% appreciation, Case-Shiller 10.4. So depending on the different expert or reporting house that we're looking at, we're seeing their analysis of home price appreciation across the country. And heavy appreciation last year in the middle of a pandemic. If we were to roll back to last March and, going through and going into the pandemic, to say that homes would have appreciated at 10%, that we would have sold more homes last year than we did the prior year before. There are so many people saying that's not going to happen, but I think as we start to look at this, we know what has started to drive that. Now, what I want to give you today is this perspective to kind of level set appreciation across the country. So we know we've had massive appreciation. We're going to call it about 10%, looking at each one of these reporting agencies. It's certainly being reported in newspapers and media, and it's what our clients are seeing. Heavy appreciation. All right, I'm concerned. I've seen this before. So I want to take a quote here from Lynn Fisher from FHFA, and she says this: house prices nationwide recorded the largest annual and quarterly increases in the history of the FHFA Home Price Index. Low mortgage rates, pent-up demand from home buyers, and limited housing supply propelled every region of the country to experience faster growth in 2020 compared to a year ago, despite the pandemic. So you say, David, I understand that. What Dr. Lynn Fisher here is saying, low mortgage rates have driven demand, pent-up demand. Those that said, you know what, the meaning of home in 2020 changed for us, and we need to do something, and now is the time. Those individuals rushed into the market. Limited housing supply. We were undersupplied in housing last January and February, and this just, I'm going to use the word depleted housing inventory across the country. Now, I think that as we start to look at that, we sold more homes last year than we did in 2019, and yet have historically low inventory numbers. The reality today in just about every real estate market across the country is that homes do not have the chance to become inventory. They're purchased before they can even be on the market for very long. And so really the supply of homes coming to market is what's dictating where we're at in the business. And, if you look at experts right now, and say, okay, that we know where we've come from. I've just given you what experts have come out with their final numbers for 2020. We know what drove it. What are experts saying about this year in the spring market? Well, if we look at our home price forecast for 2021, here we've got 7 experts across the board, anywhere from MBA saying we're going to see 10% again to CoreLogic saying 3.3%. The average of these experts is about 5.9% appreciation, higher than historic appreciation. Historic appreciation in this country has been about 3.8%. Going back over the last 20 years plus. And as we look at this, we're like, okay, we're seeing a good bit of appreciation in this country. It's going to be always a factor of supply and demand. Where are we at in supply? Do we have less or more on that? And where is demand at? And certainly in your market, as you see supply and demand, you see maybe more homes coming to market, you see demand being squelched, depending on who the employers are, how they've been affected through the pandemic, things like that are going to determine home prices in your local area. But if we look at the country as a whole, we're forecasted to see healthy appreciation. Now, the question is what's going to come into the market as far as inventory this year. Now, if you've been following us, we've talked extensively about those that are affected by forbearance, those that didn't make a decision last year to list their home. Those that, builders that are building new construction, those 3 factors are going to weigh into the amount of homes coming into the market this year. But these experts see more inventory coming to market and not as much appreciation as last year. But I want to go back to the points that Dr. Lynn Fisher made. And the first piece we want to look at is the 30-year fixed rate as measured by Freddie Mac. Yesterday, they released the average 30-year fixed in this country right now is 3.09%. This shot gives you a little bit of perspective, and maybe share that with your clients. Going back to January of 2019, we were at a little over 4.5%, 4.51%. And where we stand today is 3%. A very, very good interest rate for long-term financing, but no doubt not as good as what we saw in November and December. And rates are on the rise. Now I'll let Lori speak to that relative to the overall interest rate environment. A very good interest rate environment across the country, but what's driven demand? Going back to what Dr. Lynn Fisher said, low mortgage rates. No doubt the meaning of home changed in the last year, but really people said, you know what, we have to do what we're going to do right now. Now is the time, based on the opportunity presented with mortgage rates. As far as the next issue around pent-up demand and demand in this country, this is a quote from John Burns Consulting. They're a consulting firm in our business. They do a lot of work with builders and other large entities in housing. But on May 8th of last year, they said this: as states, cities, and counties around the country slowly reopen, we predict the great American move. For safety reasons, financial prospects, life change, improvements, personal comfort, employment, we expect a surge in household and business relocations over the next few months that will provide new strategic opportunities for the real estate market. And that's exactly what happened. Low interest rates, and people that said, hey, we don't want to be in a dense environment. We want to be in a less dense environment. Financially, there's an opportunity to move up now with low interest rates. Life change, things happen. People maybe are working from home now. Things, that are impacting people. Personal comfort. We want something different in a home. Everything that happened in 2020 that, again, depleted housing supply and started to push these prices up and pushing appreciation up. We certainly saw that. And what has this done across the country? It's led to a historic limited housing supply. Right now across the country, we ended February, NAR reported about 1.9 months of inventory on average in this country, lower than it's ever been since they started tracking inventory back in the mid 80s. And we know low interest rates, we know pent up demand led to this historic limited housing supply. What's going to happen with prices? Simple economics. When you have fewer things on the market and more people want it, you're going to keep that upward pressure. You're going to push prices up. When do you ever want to sell something? You want to sell when there are fewer of those things on the market. And that's exactly what's happening in real estate. So, Lori, I want to pause here for a second. I'll stop sharing. And, that gets us to the point of understanding. And I always use the words, I got them from Jim McMahon, having a relevant market opinion based upon facts on what's happening in our market. And if you want to explain house prices and, significant appreciation in the last 12 months, that's it right there.
Agreed. I love that. Well, and I think from a big picture perspective, Dave, you guys do such a great job of simplifying it and helping people to see not only what's really going on, but what we're hearing in the media. And a lot of times I'm telling my clients, hey, what you're hearing in the media is not necessarily true or correct or
Sure.
the whole picture. And so a lot of times you guys are helping us, kind of give color to all of those other pieces. So it just helps us so much.
Yeah. And we always say, the job of the news, the job of media is to get you to watch more news. It's not to educate clients.
Right.
And I think sometimes we think that, right? And the truth is they take their perceptions from what they hear. And when we start to look at the numbers, we can go, okay, it's very different. Or, there's a headline that says cash out refis are as high at their highest point since the crash. All right, well, that's technically true, but it's nowhere near where it was back before the crash. So that's what I appreciate you bringing that out, because that's a big piece of what we do, is trying to do it simply and effectively. How can we give you a simple idea to be able to communicate that?
Yeah. Well, and I wrote down, give people truth and trust their intelligence. And I'm actually going to integrate that into our face-to-face presentation. But I think, like, when I was growing up, right, I don't know, probably nobody's old enough to remember Peter Jennings, but like we had newscasters and they had to do so much thorough digging and they had to know exactly what they were presenting and they had all the facts. And I think these days, depending on where you get your social media, right, a lot of millennials, there are tons of different places you can get it, and it may not always be correct. So I think what you just said, David, is you give us the basic information, and we basically take that. What we do in my world is take all of that information and prepare our clients for going through either a purchase transaction or a refinance transaction, along with Mortgage Coach, to be able to explain the numbers and help them really internalize that. And so we've built a face-to-face presentation that we do for both refinance clients and for purchase clients, where we just kind of take all this information and say, hey, yes, you're pre-approved. Yes, we can refinance you. Yes, we can save you, however much money per month. But let's take a step back for a minute and pull up and look at what's going on in the market in general, because this is going to be relevant to the decision that you make for your family. We really, like you guys both said earlier, we really want to just help educate you and help you make really good financial decisions based on the information that's out there. And I'll tell you, our face-to-face presentation mirrors your market update every single month, where I'm pulling out slides, putting new ones in. I just saw a new one this morning, actually, that we're going to integrate. Because that information is constantly changing, but it really allows us to be a market expert. And but also to say to the client, hey, I know what you're hearing, I know what you're feeling, welcome to the human race, but let's really unpack the data so that you can really understand how it's going to impact your family. So I love that. If it's helpful, I'm happy to show that, Dave. If it's helpful for you guys to see how we take those slides and integrate it for our clients, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, well,
great.
First of all, we would love for you to do that. Community, if you have questions for either one of these leaders, put those in chat below. We just had a question come in to Zoom from John Herndon, and he said, awesome. Are a copy of these slides available? Dave, are the slides that you're sharing today, are you willing to share those with us?
Absolutely. I'm going to send these to you, Dave. You can post them wherever and get them to everyone.
So everyone, I will put those in our Facebook group. There is a file section in our Facebook group, which, by the way, guys, it's gold. So often I interview people. Dan Keller, a week or two ago, put his client intake form in there. But I mean, there's over 100 documents that are pure gold. So first of all, these slides will be in there, but I do recommend you scan it for what else could be interesting to you and valuable. And Lori, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you do share slides that you're willing to share, just let people know that and show us what you got.
Sure. Yeah, we're happy to share as well. So
Thank you.
All right, let me go to, so
And
this
I'm going to
is,
put
sorry, go
context
ahead.
while you're looking at this, guys. This is a professional that uses Mortgage Coach, that is a customer of Keeping Current Matters, and is taking content and then putting it in her, unique and proprietary way. So I think every top producer, education-based lender should do this. So
Yeah,
love it.
agreed. Am I sharing the right screen? Can you see Mastering the Art of Homeownership?
We can.
Right at the top? Okay, cool. So we do this for every single client, and we actually personalize it for that client. We will change some of the slides out from time to time, but as we talked about, so by the time we get to this place, we have chatted about your financial goals. We'll pretend that we're on a face-to-face consultation with a client right now. And we're just spending some time saying, okay, let's pull up. Now we're going to come back. You've given us all your information. You've given us your goals. Now we've kind of gone away into our think tank, and we're coming back to make some recommendations and to really give you counsel as it relates to executing on the things that you said were important. Now here's how we do it, right? So we're talking to them at the very beginning about becoming a more educated, empowered, and confident home buyer, really before, during, and after the transaction. So that gives us the ability to have all of these conversations. We're walking them through, we start with their goals, and we're walking them through just some of the things that we're going to offer to them over time. I want to kind of fast forward to the slides that we just referenced. We're chatting with them about their pre-approval, letting them know. But here's where I pull in the Keeping Current Matters slides and talking about, let's just take a step away from the numbers for a minute and talk about the, what's ahead in 2021. I love this picture because everybody feels like their world's been turned upside down, right? Lately. We talk a little bit about the fact that there's all this media out there, right? In terms of things that are coming at us. And I love this quote. I still use it. Dave, it came from you guys, that for many, the comparison is just more to terrify than to clarify when they're actually talking about some of the news. I still am showing clients, and this again came from Keeping Current Matters, one of the things we look at when we are looking at any kind of recovery is the years for unemployment rate to return to near pre-crisis level, right? Employment is going to drive the recovery. So this yellow line gives you an idea of what actually happened with unemployment, right? That's the V-shaped recovery, what we saw happen when the economy was shut down and then when it opened back up again. These two, the blue and the green line, give us an idea of where the Fed is anticipating at this point. We'll see about 4 years between or total for the unemployment rate to return to near pre-crisis level. And then here's the Wall Street Journal of Economists. That's changed over the last couple of months. Those two lines have come closer together. But I'm still showing, and again, I got this idea from Keeping Current Matters. Here's what happened during the Great Recession, right? It took us almost 9 years to return to that. And here's what happened during the Great Depression. Almost 12 years to recover and to regain that. And I think we're still hearing media folks talk about, oh my gosh, is it going to be like the Great Recession? Are we heading into the Great Depression? And that does so much to freak out our clients that we start there and just say, here's the reality of the situation, right? Here's the expectation. Here's what you're going to hear on the media, because you hear a lot of stuff flying around. These slides, all compliments of Keeping Current Matters, and I've changed them over the years. Or over the months, helping them look at, one of the other things we look at is home price appreciation, right? In terms of what happened during the Great Recession and what is happening now. So annual home price appreciation leading up to the housing crash, here's the last 6 years. The important thing here is to realize that yes, we have seen a more appreciation, especially over the last couple of months, but over the last 6 years, the highest amount of appreciation that we saw in 2017 is still lower than the lowest amount of appreciation we saw leading up to the housing crash. I'm just getting ready to swap this one out, Dave, for the one that you showed today. Helping people see, again, the amount of equity cashed out leading up to the Great Recession, $824 billion, right? Remember all those media outlets talking about the fact that we were using our homes as ATM machines? But look at today, right? 232 billion, very different picture. We talked to our clients about the difference back then. We were in a buyer's market versus a seller's market. And this is still one of my favorite all-time slides, David. I know I got it from you guys originally, but 53% of Americans have at least 60% equity in their home. So when we really look at that from a big picture perspective, Ivy Zellman's quote helps us to see that the likelihood of us having another foreclosure crisis like we did in 2008, 2009 is about 0%. And when you go through this with clients, you guys, you just kind of feel them like decompress, like, oh my gosh, okay, this is making sense, because now they have really great data to tie to what they're hearing. We run through, and I tell people, if you don't remember anything else from this entire time together, just remember that recession does not always equal housing crisis. And we kind of talked through a little bit about those pieces. You guys saw this slide just a minute ago talking about home price appreciation, helping them to see the real numbers and understand that. We still go through the home price changes that we've seen during the last 6 recessions, right? We've got really good data going back to the late 70s. And it just helps people to understand, if we took out 2008, which we know was a huge anomaly, right? Caused largely by the financial markets. If we took that out, 1991 was the Gulf War recession, right? Consumer confidence was at an all-time low level. But let's say we left that in and we said, let's look at the average home price change over the last 5 recessions, right? Versus the last 6. We still saw home prices increase at a rate of about 4.1%. So when you're hearing people talk about, is the market going to crash? It just helps people to understand that. So kind of looking backward, now looking forward, giving them an idea of home price forecasts. Here's kind of what we're looking at going forward. We won't continue more than likely to see that 10%. And then drawing them back to, let's, again, pull up even farther, right? Here's a look at mortgage interest rates over the last 50 years. You can tell came from Keeping Current Matters, one of my favorite charts ever. Here's when I got into the business, by the way. So here's 1970, where we saw interest rates go, where we are today, right? Interest rate by decade. I'm really excited, Mr. or Mrs. Client, that out of all the decades and for the last 50 years, I'm excited that we're buying today because your rate is lower than it was at that point. So we do camp out a little bit on, this is that same exact chart that we just looked at for fixed rate mortgages. But giving them an idea, I just basically superimpose the recessions that we've been through over the last, again, back to the 70s. And what I want them to see here is what has happened with interest rates as we've moved through every single recession that we have gone through over the last 50 years. And it's interesting to note, you guys know this, we've seen rates drop in every single case. Now, the question most economists are asking right now is, have we pulled forward rates or the drop in rates because of the pandemic? We don't know the answer to that yet, but it just kind of helps people to see that. I'm going to swap this one out for your new one that just kind of talks about where rates are headed, kind of helping people see it might be a really good time to execute now versus waiting, right? And at the end of the day, this is absolutely one of my all-time favorite slides. Steve created this for me years ago. What does this really mean to you and your family, right? If we had, and we customize this for the actual purchase price that the client is looking in. My very last client this morning was looking in the $700,000 purchase price range. And we said, okay, here's the deal. We, as Dave said, we've seen an average appreciation in the United States of about 3.8% since we started tracking. Even if we drop that to 3%, right? Let's go worst case scenario, Mr. and Mrs. Client. You guys are looking at purchasing a $700,000 home today in 2021. If it appreciates at a rate of 3%, right? In 2022, it's worth $721,000. It appreciates at a rate of 3% again. That's probably half of what we'll see, but let's just go worst case scenario here for a minute. So on and so forth. You can kind of see that's going to help you guys build your net worth by $111,000 over that 5-year period. And again, you just kind of see them decompress like, oh, that makes me feel so much better. I purposely use this slide on every single presentation that we do because I'm telling them, hey, I've been in the business for 33 years. It used to be that you'd go out looking for properties and you'd have mimosas and pancakes and you go see 3 homes and decide which one you want. And it's different than that right now, right? We get that. But this will remind you when you get beat out on an offer or you're driving up to see the one that you think is perfect and it just went under contract before you can even see it. Here's 111,000 reasons to keep going because this can have a huge impact on your net worth over time. So it just kind of helps people, I want their head in the game, right? As we're going through that. Then we use mortgage coach to deliver on our perfect mortgage promise, right? And we basically are taking them right into their total cost analysis at this point, saying, we've talked about the big picture. We've talked about how this really will help you guys build your net worth or save for college education or whatever their specific goals are. Now we're going to take them into their total cost analysis to really break down the numbers and give them an idea of all the different options available, what we like, what we don't like, why we like it, why we don't like it, to kind of bring them alongside and get them on board to really making sure that they're crystal clear on the numbers. So I tell people, I love this chart. It's from last year, but we tell people or the total cost analysis will be available on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, wherever you are, your numbers will be, and we can change them. We love this tool because not only will it do a great job of showing you exactly what the numbers look like and how we can help you build your net worth, but it will also help us find the best time to lock when you are under contract. So here we kind of segue into actually looking at the numbers. And then we circle the wagons at the end, talking about all of these. Our relationship with you really begins after closing, right? That's really when it kicks into high gear, because now we're going to help you manage that mortgage going forward as things continue to evolve, and running through all of those. And the rest of this really is just kind of runs through all of those pieces. But really, this is designed to bring all of the information that we are getting every single month from you, Dave, and all of the tools and the numbers from you, Dave, and giving them that individualized counsel that makes them feel confident that they're okay now to go out and look for properties because they feel empowered and confident in the decision that they're making.
So Lori, that was such a masterful way of how you're using Keeping Current Matters, how you're using Mortgage Coach, and how you're not only educating families about today, but that vision casting, guys. I hope everybody saw it, where she's showing and she's vision casting for families 5 years of wealth creation, and she's using Keeping Current Matters to do that. And then now let's personalize it based off your assumptions, based off of not just the city you live in, but the specific home that you're buying, and let's personalize it. So thank you, Lori. That was amazing. Hey, one question before I hand it back to Dave.
Yeah.
One thing I've been hearing a lot in our community is that there's a lot of appraisal gap issues. And so I've been seeing a lot of Mortgage Coach members, and Amber Kovarik at Scriptapalooza said, hey, when there's an appraisal gap, I'm using single premium MI, I'm using the total cost analysis to deliver it. Yeah. And then I'm also hearing that there's a number of professionals that are doing that within that initial consultation. So while you're pre-approving someone, you're preparing them for the appraisal gap, and you're vision casting that. Are you doing that right now?
Yes, absolutely. And there's a couple slides down from that actually where we hit that head on right in this consultation. I do not want my clients to be sitting in the car and having the agent have that conversation with them for the first time. Here's what an appraisal gap means. Here's what it looks like. So we're actually hitting that right off the gate, or right out of the bat, or out of the gate. Many times we'll either do 2 edge presentations, or we will sub out, like strategy 4 will be, hey, it's possible that we may see that appraisal come in, differently than the sales price, and here's why. We're kind of digging through all that, but we just want you to know at this point, you can fund the difference in cash, but you don't have to. And based on your financial goals, remember, we're talking to our clients about everything from, their retirement goals to, generational wealth planning, what's going on with your parents, what's going on with your kids, all of those things. So we know how much cash they have and how much cash they don't. So at that point, we're actually having that conversation going. It may not make sense for us to fund that difference in cash. Here's a different way to think about it. And yes, maybe we use single premium MI. Maybe you pay mortgage insurance for 2 years, and here's the total cost. But is it worth losing the home of your dreams if we know that house prices are going to continue to appreciate for, let's say it takes you 3 months to find that replacement home? Is it better to pay $1,900 in mortgage insurance or $13,000 in increased purchase price? And just helping them see that right from day one, going, we don't know that this is going to be reality, but it's something we want you to be prepared for, and to know that we've got us in your back pocket and on your team to explain it and to help you figure out what makes the most financial sense for you.
Well, let me do a 1-minute training on that. I'm really going to keep this to 1 minute because, guys, last Friday we dedicated the whole call pretty much to the appraisal gap, and you had like 5 top producers sharing how they're doing this. And we train on this every Wednesday in our black belt training. But I just want to share what Amber did and just give like a 1-minute highlight for anybody who's like, oh, what are you talking about? First of all, you can hear Amber go through this, and it's in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. She is the first one in Scriptapalooza, but she took the TCA, and again, she's showing, hey, here's buying your house and the appraisal comes in. Here's buying your house and the appraisal comes in $15,000 low. Here's buying that house and the appraisal comes in low, and she's showing different down payment amounts. And you'll notice that she's preparing them in advance. And then she's also using this once it happens, like, hey, here's your monthly payment. And then it's breaking down, like, is there monthly MI? You can see, guys, the different payments, and there's no monthly MI. And then, guys, she's breaking it down and she's saying, hey, what if we did a single premium MI? So it's a one-time cost to get you through the bridge of this and maintain the payments that you're at. And then what's the impact on your cash to close? So I just want to, if you don't know, if you're on this and you're like, I'm not really good at the appraisal gap conversation, guys, this is what differentiates good from great loan officers. The great loan officers, they love this because it creates complexity, guys, which anything times things are complex. That does not play to call center lenders. That does not play to the weak players. Whenever there's a complexity like this and there's an elegant solution and there's a way to simplify it, guys, that's where you need to run. So just make sure that if you're not a master at the appraisal gap conversation, come to our Wednesday training where we do black belt training at 11 o'clock and watch some of that content. Lori, anything you want to add before we hand it back to Dave for any more insights?
Just two things on that appraisal gap conversation. I think it's brilliant. The way that she broke it out was just awesome, and it makes it so simple. And remember that if people can see, Steve told me this, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So the way that she broke it out is great. We take it one step beyond that and also look at their net worth over time. So what if you don't do anything right now? Let's say rates go up. Let's say home prices go up. What does that do to your net worth over a 5 or a 10-year period? And it really helps drive that point home. And then the other thing I would say is take that presentation that you build similar to Amber's and take that and teach it to your realtors. Because I'm amazed, even as late as 4 o'clock yesterday, I'm talking to an agent who's like, well, I don't think that they have, I mean, a really good agent in our market. I don't think they have the cash to bring in, so we can't go. I'm like, wait, stop, hold. So having those conversations with their agents so that they feel empowered as well would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and guys, I put a link to the actual transcript in chat, so check out that link to the transcript. And the other thing I would call out on this link to the transcript, I'm going to just show it on my screen one more time, is that not only did we break it down so you have the actual script, Amber Kovark, and you've got her scripting, you've got details, you've actually got a link to her presentation. But we did this for every presentation. So like if you wanted to go to Wally's, you click on this link and it will take you to that 13 minutes and 25 seconds into it. So I've given you a link to this. We're always trying to help you guys. And Lori, I love what you said. We want to learn, we want to understand, and then we want to teach. So like when myself and my team created this document, we got so good at it. I got so good at it that I can take just about every concept in that and teach it. And guys, I want you to do this for your agents. You need to make sure you're consuming that Keeping Current Matters content. And then you need to make sure you learn it well enough that you can teach it. So Dave, we got another 12 minutes. You got any comments you want to make or anything else you want to show?
Yeah, I've got a few extra slides here that I'll share for just a minute. I won't take a lot of time. And Lori, phenomenal presentation. I mean, I've seen that presented in a lot of different ways, but yours is head and shoulders above the rest.
Oh.
Great job on that. I think, hey, it's, nothing happens with this unless it gets out there to people, and you do that so well. So let's talk about that. We were talking about appraisal gap and a lot of different things. It's not, unlikely that somebody says, I'm not sure I want to pay over list price in this market, or I have concerns about that, rising home price appreciation. So I want to give you a little bit of information here. Again, you're going to get all these slides, and you're going to see some that Lori used in her presentation, but let me start here. I'll share it real quickly, and then Lori, you can kind of hop in here. First thing we want to start to look at is comparing home price appreciation to what happened in prior markets. So remember I said, maybe it's not 2008, but maybe 2006. This is a version of the slide that Lori shared, comparing the 4 years leading up to 2006 to the 4 years leading up to today. And we look at that, we see the average appreciation back then was just over 10%, whereas today it's been just over 6%. Yeah, we saw a lot of appreciation last year. Oh, by the way, I can show you why that was and what I shared earlier, but we know back then we had runaway appreciation. It's certainly not the case today. The fundamentals of the market explain why we're seeing that appreciation. What else is different today? Well, we know lending standards have dramatically changed. This is a graphic that we built from an Urban Institute report showing the default risk in the mortgage market going all the way back to 1999. And you see there in the middle what we're calling a reasonable lending standard, where you have a little bit of product risk, you have borrower risk. And what's the truth today? The pendulum has swung to where we're not in the environment we were back then, and those of you that were in the business remember that well, to where virtually product risk has been eliminated and borrower risk has been significantly curtailed. It's harder to qualify for a home loan today than when it was certainly back then. We joke oftentimes it was easier not to get a home loan than to get a loan back prior to the housing crash. And so we want to point that out to the clients we serve to really help them see the people that are buying homes today can qualify for them. They have the ability to repay the mortgage. What was the other thing that was happening in our market in real estate during that time is the amount of inventory in this country year over year was growing and prices were appreciating. Oh, by the way, we had some loan products in the market that you didn't have to necessarily substantiate your ability to repay. And what do we know today? All those things and inventory is decreasing. This shows the sharp contrast between 04 and 07 as compared to the last 4 years, where we sit at a historic low in the market today relative to inventory. So when we start to compare the market, we start to look at their fears. And I would say, again, this is a fear that if I'm not in our business, I would have. I think it's a very legitimate question that we can answer by good information. Mark Fleming says this, and I'll wrap with this before I turn it back over to you, Lori. During the housing bubble, rapid house price appreciation was not entirely supported by economic fundamentals. That's probably the understatement in this whole thing. But in today's housing market, nominal house price appreciation has been driven by a historic shortage of supply relative to demand and rate-driven surge in house buying power. Many find it hard to believe, but housing is actually undervalued in most markets, and the gap between house buying power and the sales price indicates there's room for house price growth in the months to come. So, we talk a lot about affordability, and those of you that follow Bridge Builders or KCM, you know that. And there's a difference between affordable housing and housing affordability. Housing affordability is the value of the dollar for what you can buy, and that's a component of lower interest rates and rising wages. And we know affordability today is at a very, very good place. So Dave, I'm going to give you all these slides. Lori, you do a masterful job of delivering those, but our goal is to give you all this information so you can confidently educate your clients.
Love it.
So guys, someone had asked to see a slide again. Guys, this is recorded, so you can go back and watch it. And we're going to give you the slides. So literally within an hour, the slides will be in Facebook group. Lori, whatever you want to share, you can either share it with me or you can put it in our file section. But we've got 6 minutes left, and I want to focus on putting things into action. So I think we have fire hosed you. We opened with like, hey, this modern real estate summit, and this is a great conversation to have. And guys, and you should do that. Like, you should get on the wagon. You should buy multiple tickets. You should do a watch party. If you are a manager or a branch manager on this, email me, we get a ticket. But putting things into action. I'm telling you right now, if you are not a member of Keeping Current Matters, it is the biggest no-brainer in real estate and mortgage. Dave, could you tell anyone who wants to take action on that and get signed up, what's the fastest and easiest way to do that?
Absolutely. You can go over to trykcm.com and start a free trial. You can also email me if you want to become a member of our Bridge Builders community, which is for loan officers specifically. You can reach me at david@keepingcurrentmatters.com. Happy to help in any way we can.
So we'll put a link to that down below if you're watching it, but I just can't emphasize enough. I bring anybody that I interview, whether it's a coach, it's a trainer, it's a loan officer, I always feel like the content we create and the hour that we're together or the half hour needs to be super valuable. And that's a free gift to you. But I always believe signing up is even more valuable, like 100x more valuable. So that's part of taking action. Also, Dave, if you wouldn't mind, and I'd like you to do it in 2 minutes, and then Lori, actually, I'm gonna have Lori go first because I know she's got to get to another meeting right at the top of the hour, and I want her to be able to jump off right on time for her meeting. But I want to know, how would you take this content, prepare, whether it's a one-on-one realtor meeting or whether it's a Zoom lunch and learn group? Lori, could you just give 2 minutes on how would you take a call like today and then turn that into a conversation or a meeting and give your perspectives on that?
Yeah. I guess I have a couple thoughts. One is being able to give that information to our clients right now, just creating a face-to-face presentation that you can, even if you have 3 slides, right, pick the most important ones and you can build on it every single day. Give yourself a date. My favorite coaching question from my coaches at Building Champions is by when? Like, when do you want to have that done? Set a date and figure out a way. You know, you told me long ago when I was trying to learn mortgage coach, by when do you want to have 20 TCAs done? And so that's a great way to start. The other is, I think it's so important right now to be out in front of this with our agents. So the greatest thing about Keeping Current Matters and Edge, because on the mortgage coach community, I learn new things all the time. Being able to take that to our agents and you could take 2 slides and do a video around those 2 slides and that one important concept. So if you could take even little bite-sized pieces of it and get it out, just take the time to make sure that you can master it and you understand it first. And then I think there's huge value in bringing together your agents. Even if you started with 5 of your top agents and invite somebody that you don't do business with, so it's not a violation of RESPA, but just bring them together and talk through. The beautiful thing about KCM, just like you've done, is they actually will give us a script of all of the talking points that Dave has gone through. And so you can read those, you can listen to it, 12 times, but bring those people together and have them ask questions and begin to kind of coach each other on some of that content. And then you're really bringing massive value to your agents, where, I mean, my agents say, gosh, you're my best coach, you're my best salesperson. I learn more about the industry from you than I do my managing broker. Don't tell anybody that, but so that's how I would execute it. It still sounds like a fire hose, but like you said, Dave, take action and decide one thing that you're going to do from this presentation today by when, and you will figure out a way to make it happen.
And put that by when as a meeting, a jam session in your CR or in Outlook or however you do it. Put an alarm on it. And if you move it, that's okay, but don't delete it. Get it done. Dave and Lori, you can jump anytime you need to. Thank you so much for the value that you brought to today's call. David, how would you close out with some taking action advice?
First of all, phenomenal, Lori. Unbelievable. Really, really need to see that. My first piece of advice would be to figure out what your presentation looks like. Lori's given you a great template for that. Not to get too caught up in trying to mirror everything she does, but do what you do and be able to deliver that well. And we certainly all have our own styles and things we want to communicate. The second thing I would say is, if you want a topic to talk to an agent about right now, pricing certainly is a topic, right? They've got a lot of buyers that can't find homes, and what they need is content to put themselves out in the market to be the expert. So asking them, how are you answering the question, should I pay over list price? Should, what's happening with prices, and be the source of this information to them. Bring them these slides, record a video with them, do whatever you can do to help them be the educator in their market, and you'll build a wonderful relationship doing that.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. I am super proud of this hour of leadership from Mortgage Coach. Gabriel, you just said, what a fantastic presentation. Was this the Productivity Mastermind with Todd Bookspan? And did it get rescheduled? No, this is it. Lori was Todd today. Todd couldn't make it, but every Friday at 9, guys, we're here to bring leadership. Every single day on Clubhouse at 8:30 in the morning. I've got someone who is not only extraordinarily successful as a professional mortgage professional, many of them do over $100 million a year. They're also Mortgage Coach Grandmasters. So 2 times a day, 8:30, just let's kick off the day together, and 3 o'clock. So if you are on Clubhouse, check that out. And then every day we do live training at Mortgage Coach. I lead Tuesday at 9, where I interview someone amazing, and I co-lead the Friday at 9, where I mastermind with someone. But guys, we do live training every single day of the week. Check out the calendar. If you're a member, it's in your platform. We call it the Advice Engine. If you're not a member, you can check it out on our website. Dave Childers, dude, you're the man. I really appreciate it. Lori, thank you so much. Everybody have an awesome weekend. This call is a wrap, and it'll be on YouTube, and the links, if you're watching it on YouTube, will be down below. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.